Welcome to the TIMFD podcast. Today is my favorite day is about appreciating every day as it comes, no matter what life throws at us. We hope this podcast speaks to you, and if it does, please like, share, and comment. Now let's find out why today is our favorite day this week.
Well, David, welcome back. I'm Sam McKeown. This is Dave. Dave, I understand you have a question for us today.
I don't have a question. You have the question.
Oh, I have the question. Okay,
Actually, we could go. In the Batman movie with the Joker, he said, "Why so serious?" Right?
Yes.
Well, we're not doing that. What are we doing?
Why so stressed?
Why so stressed out? Yes.
Stressed
why so
out.
stressed out?
Yep.
And both of us have experienced that stressed outness.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
We're going to be honest with you. There are times where it's just tough.
Yeah.
It's just tough, and a lot of it has to do with our own control issues, right?
Yeah.
we're
control freaks.
And usually control freaks are trying to be their own little G God. Mm-hmm. They're trying to, I'm going to stop saying they. We are trying to control the situation and even maybe control the people so we get the outcome we think is best. Would you agree to that?
Totally.
Okay.
100%.
So if that's how we do things, then there's probably others that struggle with being stressed out as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And some folks stress out because they don't have any control and they don't know how to go to God with it.
To let it go. That's hard. It's hard.
And we look at it from the control freak side because that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And
absolutely.
And in every aspect, I can look in every aspect of my life and say, I think I should be able to control this. I think I should be able to control that. When I was going through my addiction, it took literally God hitting me upside the head with a 2x4 to say, look, you cannot beat this yourself.
You can't keep on gambling and you're going to be in a good place.
Right. And it took some, going to some pastor friend and going to some friends and getting a better inner circle. Yeah. Because at that point in time, my inner circle was all gamblers.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. If you're wanting not to drink, if you're drinking and out of control in your drinking, it probably would behoove you not to have a bunch of drinkers around you.
Right.
I mean, if it's destroying you, I'm not saying it's going to destroy anybody else. I'm just saying that you would have to first initially get out of that.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to be stressed out because you're going to be white knuckling it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Trying to do the best you can, and it's impossible.
Yeah. And when we're dealing with life, so this is I read one of the economists listening to him the other day, and he says that, well, fortunately, we didn't go into a recession. I'm like, where do you buy your groceries?
Yeah.
Where do you buy your gas? Yeah. And it's like, so they're not labeling it a recession, but we both know our budgets are.
Oh, I know that our budget has stressed us out.
Yeah.
We've definitely reduced a lot of things, and that's just part of what it is. So there's money stress.
Yeah.
There's a real money stress that's always out there.
Yes.
But right now, it seems to be for a lot more people.
Yes.
This money stress, at least we're hearing it. We're seeing so many more people in the food pantry, so many more people talking about that financial stress going on. And honestly, all we have to do is look at what's going on in the economy around us, and you can see that. So we have that money stress, and that puts, because we don't have control over it, we end up just worrying over it, which is just negative self-talk, right?
Right.
So there's money stress, but there's also relational stresses, right? There's relational stresses at home. You just went through a surgery yourself.
Yep.
And your mother-in-law just went through a surgery, correct? All in the same week, if I remember right.
Yes.
And that adds a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it just does. It's just part of something that happens. I know that when we went through the death of Rebecca, our youngest daughter, a lot of extra stress that came on there. We had no control over what was going on, sadness and grief, but we were also struggling with what can we do? What should we do?
Yep. And sometimes you don't know where the emotion's coming from.
No.
I mean, you just, like with the surgery that I just had, this week was not a good week.
Yeah.
I know that it's healing and everything else, but there was just some, and I look at the negative emotions that I had. Well, the surgery was out of my control.
Yeah, you can't control that. No.
And so I spent most of the week, not gazing at God.
Yeah. Well, and that's the stressor.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that physical stress. The physical stresses that happen in our lives, and our bodies take a beating. and we feel that stress.
Right.
There's marriage stresses, right?
Yep.
Communication, how to communicate. Tanya and I are going to be doing love languages again with some other couples. And we're looking forward to it because it's just fun because you realize, okay, am I communicating well with my spouse and actually meeting her or his, love language and be able to speak their language, if you will. And so when we speak each other's language, that stress and that opportunity of loving, like it says in Ephesians 5, of respect and love for each other, happens a lot quicker. But it adds a lot of extra stress when that relationship is stressed. It adds a lot of stress to our lives, doesn't it? I mean, it just does.
And it's funny you mentioned the love languages. It's people really need to read the book if they don't have the opportunity to be in a study.
Gary Chapman. Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages.
There. But the thing is that we didn't realize before we went through that class the first time was that, some of the things I was doing was literally emptying her tank.
Yes.
And she was doing the same to me. And then you empty your spouse's tank.
You're in trouble.
And,
absolutely.
And now you have stress in the relationship.
That's right.
So I would strongly recommend that book, by the way.
But there are marriage stresses.
Yep.
Financial stuff adds to those marriage stresses. If you have children, and that adds to that marriage stress. And then if you have toxic people around you, so you have people stresses, which are those toxic, hard, extra grace, required people, the EGR people that we have in our lives, and how do we deal with them?
Right. And sometimes they're family.
Oh no, a lot of times it's family. So so it's those EGR, extra grace required people, or those toxic people that are in our families, workplaces, churches, teams. They're there.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're not one of them.
Yeah, hopefully.
Right?
Yeah, right.
And we really have to look at ourselves on that to always be in a self-evaluation of ourselves. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. We need to look in the mirror when it comes to how we are responding to and whether we're creating stress for others.
We're going to have another gentleman coming over here. He's going to be preaching actually the week after you are.
Okay.
So on the 11th, and I know that this is church stuff, but he's going to be talking about work stress.
Yes.
So you're going to be talking about what happens in work stress and how do we deal with it according to scriptures. The following week, we have a gentleman coming in. His name is Jason. He's going to be starting a discipleship process, helping us with Bill Pinus, who we'll have on this too, who's the president of FinFit, which is a very large company around the world, insurance company. But Jason is going to be speaking about we have to have people. We need people, those healthy people in our lives, to reduce that stress and to be able to work together with it. But we also have those toxic people that we have to deal with, and how do we work with them so we don't get ourselves all stressed out and messed up and fall into their world.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And deal with toxic people, a lot of times it is family, and we can't deal with them from the toxic level. Yeah. We've got to deal with them in love, and we've got to, and you may have to cut them off.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. And I don't recommend that until that this just isn't going to work, and then when you do, it has to be, look, this is our issue.
Yep.
If you're willing to meet us and understand where we're coming from and then join in that way, that's a different
process
story.
Of reconciliation.
Yeah. And that's never easy.
No, but reconciliation is always healthy.
Yes.
And that's something but we get stressed out by those
those toxic
people in our lives. So here's these different topics, if you will. And what I want to ask you is, what would have been, or what has been, maybe in the last 5 years, 10 years, has been maybe an episode that has been a high stress situation that you had to deal with? And how did you deal with it in a positive way? And what were some of the things that you struggled with on that?
Okay. So the most recent was a total business loss. We lost everything.
Okay.
We had sold our house. So we had moved down to Florida, became involved in a business, had invested everything. And it wasn't a fly-by-night business. They'd been around for 15 years.
Wow.
It was some internet stuff, and we researched it. We researched it hard. Rita did most of the research, and she came back and said, this is right up your alley. You should be involved in this. And we went to a couple of meetings and talked to some people and did some research and everything else. And it all looked really, legitimate. Okay. And unfortunately, we have government intervention in a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And FTC came in and said, oh, no, you can't do this, and shut the business down.
Oh, wow.
And it was really, if you or I did something the way the government did, we'd be in big trouble. They waited until money was transferred to pay people and then shut it down, took all that money so people didn't get paid. It's like, are you kidding? Yeah. And so
government stress.
Well, and here's the thing. When you look at that, the FTC tried to shut down McDonald's as a franchise. They said McDonald's was a pyramid scheme.
Oh, okay.
So back when McDonald's started, when Ray Kroc started all that stuff, they threatened to shut down McDonald's.
Wow.
Because it was a pyramid scheme. Obviously it wasn't.
No.
Right? And so...
It became more of a real estate thing than anything else.
Yeah.
They bought properties and then rented it out.
Talk to anybody on the corporate side, and they'll tell you, we ain't in the burger business. We're in the real estate business,
right. That's right.
And so, but we had gone into that together. Hmm? Rita is a dental hygienist, and she is the primary breadwinner in the family right now. And we talked it through. We knew what was going to entail on my part. She was okay with that. We worked it. And then I'll tell you the biggest stressor. I went to send out a series of emails that I had written, and it wouldn't go. And it wouldn't go. And then I called one of the coaches I was working with, and his phone was shut off.
Uh-oh.
And I mean, I finally got a hold of somebody, and they told me what was going on. I said, well, do I get any of my money back? I've got all this invested. And he said, we don't know. We don't know.
And the SEC got involved, and that was the end of that.
Yeah,
right?
that was the end of that. And guess what? Nobody ever got charged. There was never any criminal charges. There was never anything that anybody was charged with,
sure,
necessarily convicted of any kind of fraud, pyramid scheme, or anything like that. But they shut it down, and hundreds of thousands of people lost money.
So how did you deal with that?
Not very well to begin with.
Okay.
The first day, I was beside myself. What am I going to do? Looks like we've lost all this money, and now I have no income. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go?
Right.
And it's like my first thought was to hide it, to not tell Rita, right? Yeah. To keep trying to figure something out. And it's like, I can't. This is, first off, it's everything we own.
Yeah.
And so we talked. She came home from work, and I said, we have to talk about this. She said, what happened? And I told her. And I think because when we went into it, we did our research. We prayed about it. We said, this is the direction we want to go. She was involved with it.
Yeah.
And so
coming in as a team.
Coming as a team. And did we second guess it when that happened? Absolutely.
Of course.
But we talked through it. It's like, no, we prayed about this. We both felt like this is the way it was supposed to do. All the doors opened the way they should. And a lot of times, God, if this isn't, close the door.
Sure.
Your will be done, right?
Sure.
And so, and then over the course of, it took a good 6 months or longer to really get over the hurt.
Yeah.
But we kept talking about it.
Yeah.
And I moved on. I found other venues. Obviously, we didn't have any money,
right?
So it was just one of those, and we've struggled ever since. Mm-hmm. It's just to try and recover from that, because it was all our retirement. It was everything from the house, everything. And so, but when you go into a business,
that happens.
You invest heavily, right?
Yep.
And so, part of it has been we've had to revamp our vision.
Yeah.
What is our vision? What is our plan? And so as we begin to talk through things like that, or we began to talk through things like that, then the hurt of losing money, that went away. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wish I had that money right now, right?
Sure.
But it's water under the bridge. I can't fix that. The control freak in me wants to,
sure.
But we just talk about it,
yeah.
And we're honest with each other about it. And it has been a struggle, and we just keep moving
Would
forward.
you say that slowing down is a good thing on
Yes.
that, just to slow it down? You and I were both talking about the verse we want to tie to this thing, which
Yes.
is to be still and know that I am God. That's Psalm 46:10. I think we've used it before, but it's a very important verse for anyone who
is.
feels stressed out at this moment.
Right.
What it's saying is that there is a mindset that has to take place right off the bat. Be still.
Yes.
That's hard for control freaks.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's be still. And then the second half is knowing who's in charge and know that I am God. And I know for me, I've had to always go back to God is God, I'm not, and I got to be okay with that. And then who is this God I'm talking about? And when I wrote today is my favorite day is because of the struggle with cancer and the stress of that. But it was all about who God was.
Right.
When we went through the loss of Rebecca, again, the same thing. And we're using the Today is My Favorite Day prayer book. I was just telling you this, that we use it. We've used it for now almost a year, just reading through it every 90 days and just, or 60 days, and just read a different prayer each day and putting whatever struggle that we have. It was Rebecca pretty heavily. Now it's other things and throwing and then praying for it and then going, okay, what do we need to do? And I told you that we use this DTR, which is a group of statements of, how do you appreciate each other and what's new information out there? What's puzzling you? Do you have any complaints? And can we make requests for change, apologies, wishes, hopes, and dreams, and then pray? And so we go through those, and that gets us into a slowed down process because we all have stress. We all have stuff going on. Everyone has their story about stress, like yours with the loss of the business. We went through the same type of loss with the church in 2008, 2009. And that was just the economy just blew up in our faces. It was crazy. And we had some issues with a person in the church that tried to really take over the church, flat out try to own the church, they said. And so that didn't work out for them, but it still was difficult for us.
Sure.
But all of us are dealing with the stress. So I know for me, I have to slow things down big time. And in the slowing down, just so you know, we're going to bring special people in here who deal with this stuff. But there's some things I know I do, and I've brought it up. Breathing exercises are huge for me. I slow down. I take 10 seconds in, 10 seconds hold, 10 seconds out, and slow. And by doing that, I'm also going through a verse, whatever the verse that I'm putting in my head, to remind myself who's in charge. And they're verses that are about God's in charge, I'm not, so I could gaze at him and glance at the problems, not avoid them, not run from them. Deal with them, but give them to God instead of trying to take it over. So I think that like in a situation that you said and talked about, which is brutal, especially when you have no control over it, it just suddenly happens and you're going, what happened?
Right.
And that's happened, unfortunately, to too many people. And when that happens, it's how do we slow this thing down? And then how do we kick back into gear, right? And move forward. And that's something that's very difficult.
It is.
Very difficult, and we can get stuck in our junk, get stuck in our anger, bitterness. I know that, at least for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so if you are stressed out, why so stressed out? If you're stressed out or feeling stressed, there are some things that we can help with. So what we're going to do these next couple of weeks is bring different people in.
Yes.
The idea is to bring in some people that deal with exercise and nutrition, bring some people in like a chiropractor, talk with him, maybe some finance people, mental health people. So we're going to be bringing a number of people in. So I hope that you would enjoy. The folks are coming in. We're going to stay on this theme, if you don't mind, just on stress. And being stressed out. My wife came to me. I had almost my entire year set up sermon-wise and everything else. And she came to me and said, David, that sermon series right there needs to go, and you need to start talking about stress. And you need to look what it says biblically. Yeah. And I went, why? And she goes, because most of the people that I have in my Celebrate Recovery, she leads Celebrate Recovery in our church. She said, that's the main issue right now. Ladies I talk to, and I'm going for my wife, that I'm talking to through the week, the business people outside of the church, stressed out. And so unless you're extremely wealthy and you're in a really, really good relationship and you haven't had any losses in your life,
And you don't have any sickness.
And you don't have any health issues.
We can make the list of all the...
Then this is not good for you. This won't work for you. But if you're the normal human being, this hopefully, why so stressed out, as we go through this kind of podcast series, if you will, we could bring people in that could help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And to help us. Hopefully we can learn some stuff from it.
We can learn some,
and do some things.
We do have ulterior motive there.
Yeah, we do. We want to get into a better place.
But I would encourage you to remember the verse. Be still and know that I am God.
Yeah, and that's Psalm 46:10. If you memorize it, and if you want to do some breathing exercises, you could just do it one time and say the verse just to get you slowed down. But honestly, it's used to slow down our heart rate and our blood pressure.
Yes.
It's something God gives us to do. So it's not some hocus pocus thing. It's something
it works.
We could do.
The breathing works.
Physically do to get ourselves slowed down so we could be focused on the Lord.
Right.
So we want to encourage you to do that. I hope that you guys are looking forward to this. You don't have to. The phone just went off again on this.
It is.
On this thing, but that's okay. What we want to do is just make sure that you guys are ready for this. I hope you go tell other people about what we're going to be doing these next couple of weeks. And my hope is that this is helpful for not only our people in our church, but people outside the church.
Yep.
And we have a great time doing that. Plus, we're going to try to get a new studio set up maybe in the next 4 or 5 weeks here. So that's the goal.
That'll be fun.
To get that done, which will be different from what we hear in here.
Yep.
I know Alex will like that a lot more. So, because it'll be a little easier for him, our producer. All right. So that's it.
That's what we have today. This has been Sam McKeown.
Bye.
David Towner. Live intentionally. Be very blessed, my friends.
We're getting going.
Thank you for listening to TIMFD. Today is my favorite day. Views, comments, and opinions are those of the host and guest alone, and Dave and Sam are solely responsible for the content of this podcast. TIMFD is produced and directed by Alex Korn. Music is composed and performed by Chuck Ball. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, live intentionally, and be very blessed.